Let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by God of War, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. Sony is no longer content to wait for media giants to produce shows based on its games. The company has formed a PlayStation production studios that will produce movies and TV shows based on their games, which we've covered before. I know you know this, but I want to know which game you love and want to make a movie or show about. I want a God of War show." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And of course, there are several of these things that are already in the works, right? We know that. We know there's an Uncharted series coming to HBO. We know an Last of Us series is coming to HBO. We know an Uncharted movie is coming by Sony. We've heard talk about the God of War movie rights and all this kind of stuff. So the question really becomes to me, which one of these properties, because I think when you're talking about like the PlayStation properties that have cinematic potential, to me, these are the 3 properties that really have the most potential of making really good narrative translations from the video game format into an actual narrative format of either movies or television. And that really got an interesting discussion going last night when I was doing my D&D group. This kind of came up and blah, blah, blah. And I think let me say this up front, just to be clear. I think all 3 of these have fantastic, tall ceiling potential.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of them have great, great potential. But I'm going to tell you which 2 I think have even the more potential than the third. And then I'll tell you which one of the 2 I'll pick of those. I think out of these 3, the 2 that honestly have the most potential, I'm not saying these are the better games. I'm simply saying from a narrative point of view, which one of these has the potential to make the more epic kind of on-screen story. I'm going to say Last of Us and God of War. That is not to take anything away from Uncharted. Uncharted is going to make a great, fun adventure series, absolutely. Once Tom Holland gets in there and they do their thing, I think it's going to be great. I really do. It's not to take anything away from the Uncharted at all. But when you look at God of War, because Rob, I've said for a long time, people always say, the video games make great movies. It's like, no, they don't. 90% of the time, no, they don't. Their narrative's built for gameplay, not for storytelling. But 2 of the exceptions are these 2. Last of Us and God of War are 2 of those exceptions. These really are, you know what they feel like to me, Rob? They feel to me like somebody made a video game out of a movie. That's what it feels like to me. Like when I look at the Last of Us story and the gameplay, it feels like this was already a movie and somebody translated it into a game. When I see the God of War footage and stuff, I feel like this must have already been a movie and then they just made it into a game rather than the other way around. The potential for both of these are so grand because they have depth, they have deep character development, they have real drama, they have fantastic action, great world building, all that kind of stuff. All the ingredients you need to make a really great on-screen narrative. And I believe Uncharted has a lot of that too. Don't get me wrong. I think Uncharted has a lot of that as well. But I think the one I really the 2 I'd have to give the nod to as the biggest potential is Last of Us and God of War. Out of the 2, the one I think has the highest potential out of those 2, I'm actually going to say God of War. I'm going to say God of War because to me, God of War not only is such a great self-contained story, with rich but not too many characters, with great depth, possibilities for great flashbacks, a terrific ending, all that kind of stuff, and just a world that I feel was made for the big screen. I feel like that God of War world is just made for the big screen. Now, I had a little bit of debate with some people online saying, well, you can't do God of War until you do the earlier ones. You have to do all the original games and turn those into movies first. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because the latest God of War game is so perfectly scripted and so perfectly self-contained, you don't need to know anything about the previous God of War games and to be able to just jump right in and fully pick up, because all the information you as a viewer need to know about this world, they give that information right in this story, right in this game. It is perfectly self-contained, does not require the previous games to be translated to live adaptations whatsoever. I'm not saying that would be a bad idea, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't require it. So I think they'd both be great. I think all three would be great. My vote would be for God of War. Rob, these are three just terrific narratives, these three games. Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War. When you look at these, and you got it like as a filmmaker, you know, they get a hold of you. You know, Bob Iger gives you a call and says, hey, we just took over the rights for these things from Sony. We got to pick one. Which one has the best potential, Rob? Tell me quickly. Which one has the best potential? Which one do you see as having the best potential?
Well, look, you know, I've often talked about how when I first started playing the Uncharted franchise, it was the closest I thought a video game came to being a movie. But my problem with the Uncharted franchise is so much of the game is actually the penetration into wherever it is you're going. You know, the temple, you're going into the jungle, and half the game was that gameplay. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a movie. And like you said, I think God of War, first of all, The Last of Us is great, and it's obviously got great emotional investment. I mean, I don't know if you can possibly get more involved in the emotional aspects of a video game. I mean, I know some people can say that about maybe Final Fantasy, but in terms of the storyline, but that storyline's kind of, we've seen so much of it lately in various other kinds of movies. But I think God of War, if they can do it right, the mythology, the characterization, the potential for I mean, the visual effects and the vistas and the milieu and the whole, if they do it right, it's a tonal issue, and they might have to make it, I mean, R-rated. So they've really got to play it. Like, I could see a God of War movie being like Conan the Barbarian was in 1982. You know, and I wasn't necessarily particularly down with sword and sorcery or mythology or, you know, Greek mythology or whatever. But when I saw Conan, the tone of it, and Schwarzenegger, you know, not being very loquacious, but really looking like he should. Conan was the brutality of it, the bloodletting, the fact that there was the snake cult. And I mean, it was just, it totally turned me around on fantasy movies. If you could do the equivalent of what Conan the Barbarian felt like in 82, but do it now for audiences of 2020, people that have played video games, that have seen Lord of the Rings and are looking for something, the next extension of that, I think God of War might be your best bet. Even, I mean, I remember playing God of War for the first time, and I'm like, the first game, and being like, this game kicks ass, you know, and it was just so much fun to play. And look, I'm not saying it's easy. I think video game movies have an inherent problem in that gameplay is inherently different than narrative.
Yeah.
And getting us from cutscenes are one thing, but those are perfunctory storytelling moments to get us to the next gameplay level. And a movie, you have to do the opposite. There is no gameplay level, so it's all got to be stimulating and rich and character driven and story driven cutscenes. And, you know, not every game is like that. And I think it's really hard to do. Yeah, but I do think God of War has the best potential. The Last of Us is too similar in terms of its feel to other things, you know, whether it's Walking Dead or, I mean, there's so many that I just think God of War has the potential to really break out. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the world of God of War. Last of Us, you know, okay, it's overgrown America, but I want to see God of War done right.
And, you know, one of the great things about God of War is it gives you an opportunity they have cross mythology potential. Because they cross from Greek deities to Norse deities to all this kind of stuff. And behind that is great human drama as well. They're the classic motif of a father and his son, you know, and the memory of the mother. And as you get into the game, the whole depth of the story that builds up to a terrific ending and a great reveal at the end. I mean, it's just, there's so much. Again, I think all three can be fantastic. But the one I'm going to kind of cast my lot into is I think God of War might have a little bit more potential. But anyway, guys, I made that today's question of the day. And the question of the day today that I put to you guys, and we just simply put it over on my Twitter. You can go over to my Twitter, simply at John Campea. and see it there. But here's what today's question of the day was. I said, which PlayStation game has the best potential to be great on a movie or TV screen? We discussed this and more. I put this up just before the show started. A little over 2,000 of you guys have voted. And right now, it's good balance across, but Last of Us is in the lead. 45.2% of you are saying Last of Us has the best potential. 30.7% of you guys are saying God of War, and 24.2%. So a good amount. Every single option got a good amount of votes. 24.2% is Uncharted. So again, Last of Us in the lead there at 45.2%. God of War at 30.7%, Uncharted at 24.2%. Guys, I'm going to leave that poll up for the rest of the day. Go on over there and cast your vote. Which of these three great potential stories has the biggest potential to be a breakout hit or really, really epic on a movie or TV screen? Go on over there and leave your votes there. Okay, guys.